Hey everybody, you're listening to the Hisessions Hawaii podcast where we talk about everything local and beyond. I'm John Yamasato, your host, and joining me today is Kao Shimabukuro.
How's it?
Devon Nekoba.
Howdy.
Before we begin, let me remind our listeners of all the ways they can stay in touch with the show. There's Facebook, Instagram, and X, all at Hisessions. You can go to SoundCloud, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts to listen to the podcast. And finally, you can email us at hisessions@yahoo.com for any comments, questions, things of that nature. If you'd like to help the show get more music on the channel, please go to patreon.com and donate. There you'll be more involved with the show and help determine who and what is filmed. No new patrons this week, but we had another person raise their donation amount.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
From like dollar to...
No, from 5 to 10.
That's
a month.
awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not nothing. Thank you.
Now, shirts have
Appreciate it.
started to go out, but it's going to take me about a month to get them all gone. So
Yeah.
we'll check back in February, and if you haven't got your shirt yet, then we'll start taking requests.
We never got our shirt yet.
Yeah, I was thinking about it,
we
whether or not I should even get you it, but yeah, you guys should have shirts, I guess.
You think?
All right.
What? I was debating about...
Well, it's extra cost. Okay. Kupu Landscaping,
Wow.
landscape architect.
Wow, this
Jeez.
guy.
Unbelievable. Yeah, okay, shoots. Right on.
Call Kevin Yokomura, 808-722-8685 for a free estimate, or go to kupukupulandscaping.com. Of course, there is Fort Ruger Market. I'm back to my plate A after the Rugerlicious Poke Bowl last week. Got to keep our mercury down. So, there we go. And of course, Olelo Online, Kaliko Beamer Trap. You can go to oleloonline.com if you want to learn virtually how to speak Hawaiian language. Okay, our very special guest today is Kumu Hina Moana Wong Kalu. She is a kumuhula, filmmaker, activist. There's actually a long list of specialties that you have, but I didn't want to list them all because some of it will inquire and find out during the podcast. But thank you so much for being here.
Oh, yeah, mahalo.
Now, so it always lists you as a kumuhula first, and so let's start there. You have you always? Let's see. I was going to answer the question like, how do you begin hula? But I think it's something that you just start when you're a kid, right? And you just
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
It depends on your family, depends on where you grew up. Some areas had greater access to kumuhula and the halau that they would be running. In my case, I am a graduate of Kamehameha. And during intermediate school years up to high school, there were our fair share of people in school that danced for different halau. So, again, it depends on the family because my family, my father's side is Chinese. My mother's side is Hawaiian, Portuguese, English. And so on my Chinese side, we did nothing, nothing having to do with anything Hawaii or Hawaiian. It was usually something Chinese. But on my mother's side, in the case of folks who might be in my age bracket, which is at this current time 53 heading towards 54. So shout out to the 1972 people born in that year. Great vintage, if I might say.
yes.
We are people who have grandparents that were the generation that were beaten for speaking Hawaiian. And so some families still held on to language and cultural things, and some didn't. Many didn't. And so doing things Hawaiian wasn't always the most commonplace.
Did your family hold on to that culture, though?
In different ways, they held on to what they could, but that generation was taught to embrace being American so much and to speak English so much, such that my mother's generation, she had no Hawaiian language background whatsoever. So, and my mother's still alive, but I can't look to my mother's generation for any cultural knowledge, especially because they were taken by my grandparents to the continent and they grew up just like any other American kid. However, my grandparents were not fair. They were not white-skinned people, and they lived in America during the time of segregation. So it was not easy for my grandmother. And she came home scarred, emotionally, mentally scarred because of ill treatment towards people of color.
You know, now that you mention it, it does make sense. Like, you know, when I think about when I took Hawaiian language at UH, or even when I did Hawaiian studies in high school and stuff, a lot of the kumu are all a lot older. Like, you don't have like a mid-rangey kupuna, and I guess that's because they'd skip that generation, right? Huh.
Yes.
That all makes sense now.
In in some families, the people who would have been my grandparents' generation, they would be the last that held on to it, but they were likely beaten for utilizing language, and so it takes a really long time to coax them into being able to use it again. And if they really get comfortable with it, and if they really have that fighting spirit to not let it die, they might be able to bring it back. But for some, it's a traumatic experience. If you got lickings going to school every time you spoke Hawaiian, you're not going to want to ever speak that language again. And you'll just refuse. So in my case, my grandmother, Mona Kanani Okalani Kealoha, comes from a family of 16 children. My grandmother was the youngest girl. My grandfather, John Furtado Matias, comes from a family of 14 children. He's the eldest boy.
Jeez, that's a huge.
Well, your family reunions must be crazy.
That family tree is big.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
So, my grandparents had very diverse experiences. It was my Hawaiian grandmother, however, that lit the pilot light under me. And, she made sure that I would have a passion and a desire to stand up and stand for anything that was Hawaiian culture, history, language, philosophy related. And that's part of the reason why I get to be here on this podcast.
When you went to Kamehameha School, did you go from elementary school time to high school, or when did you enter that school?
As a child raised between my grandparents' houses, my Hawaiian grandparents moved back from America and found a home in Mililani. My Chinese grandparents lived in Liliha Pu'unui in Nu'uanu Valley. So going between their houses, I found myself at an early age. My parents divorced when I was in second grade. And so by the time I started the third grade, I was living full-time in Liliha Pu'unui, and I could walk to school.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
So I went to Ma'ema'e school. Yay, Ma'ema'e.
You went to my?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
It's an excellent school.
Yes, it is.
But it's an excellent school if you pass the Asian, like, for real. I love to speak to elephants in the room. If you was the Asian or Asian passing, you made it. In my year, my friends who are Hawaiian, they were like less than 2 handful. And almost all of them I did not share class with.
Yeah.
So in the 80s, it was either you had an enrichment class or an improvement class. And most of the Hawaiians were in the improvement. I was in the enrichment. I wasn't someone who was allowed. My household, not the Hawaiian and not the Chinese, was not allowed to speak Pidgin English for anything. Wow. And so it ostracized me from other children because I couldn't speak like them. And so they'd look at me funny and they'd make fun of me. And on top of making fun of me for other things, because they would call mahu, they would call you faggot, they would call you this, that. So on a number of fronts, it was not a pleasant experience for me going to school. But because I was more Asian passing at that time, just darker. I got by.
Yeah, yeah. Back in the 80s, because we're all kind of child of the same. I mean, you're a little bit ahead of me, but I mean, you know.
No, man, I'm a lot ahead of you, but okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
No, I remember. Yeah, back in those days, they would segregate you into. I remember in my day, there was an X group and the Y group and the what, and then there was like special ed
In
or
high
whatever.
School we had that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were in the X group, then you just went with the X kids all the way through. That you had the same classes all the way through, and you just so.
Well,
You're an X, right?
Yeah, my mom was like, "You are going to be an X
I
plus
was a
or whatever."
Y
you know?
kid.
Like, why am I at school?
Yeah, why
How
am I
come I
at
gotta
school?
be here? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Like nowadays, they try to put X kids with the Y kids with the idea that hopefully the X kids will help the Y kids, all that kind of stuff. But back in those days, it was a lot different.
Yeah,
Huh.
I did, the gifted and talented classes, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I remember in elementary school, because I was at Kumu Hina, and then when we moved to Oahu, I got put into my, and actually I know what you mean, because the first day of school, I got beat up
Am I?
at my.
Oh,
But this is how
That's the one you got
bougie,
thrown in
this
the-
is how bougie my is. My was so bougie that our bull of the school was a Japanese guy.
Did you
Just 'cause-
Yes.
Did you get thrown in
Yeah.
a garbage can or
Yes.
something like that?
I got pushed into the bushes.
Oh.
But and he became a good friend of mine. But so Richard Okano was the only kid in our school
He
who could
names the guy.
he could box. No, Richard will admit it. Richard was the bull of our school because he played ukulele and he could fight. Like his dad was a boxer, so he learned how to box. And if you can do even a little bit of
Oh, yeah.
boxing, martial
Yeah.
arts or something, right? Nobody's gonna mess with you.
Nothing worse
So-
than a ukulele player bully, bro.
Yeah, I know. But the worst part was he was. I was not important enough for him to beat up. Like he sent one of his lackey guys to beat me up
Oh.
on that day.
Ah.
So because they said I was being stuck up,
Yeah.
and all I was at a school that I didn't know anybody. So I
Poor
was
thing,
very
you.
quiet.
Yeah, dude.
No, it's okay because the things that don't kill you make you stronger.
Yeah.
So it forced me to be a more gregarious and outgoing person.
I think in elementary school we all had to adapt to something
Yeah.
to avoid getting.
But
Well,
I kind of want to back up a little bit because we sort of jumped right into like the middle of where you're at. So when you were growing up in two places, did you find yourself like code switching?
Yes.
Right?
Code switching, absolutely. Well, I should say that in my Hawaiian household and around my Hawaiian family,
Yeah.
they would always look at me as the Chinese one. They call me the Pake one.
Oh.
And in my Chinese side, because Hawaiian side, I was slimmer, fairer, and my hair was straight. And because I didn't speak Pidgin English, I was always labeled as the different one.
Yeah.
In the Chinese side of my family, I was always taller, darker, bigger, and so I stood out. So
either
yeah, I
way,
was
on
always
either side of your family, yeah.
labeled as the Hawaiian, so I never really fit in completely without if at best the comment like, oh, the Hawaiian one or the Pake one.
Yeah.
My family's accepted me and embraced me, but again, it was not without those kind of comments. It wasn't without me noticing. Like the Chinese wouldn't just look at me as another Chinese,
Yeah.
and the Hawaiians did not look at me like I'm one of the Hawaiians of the
And then
family.
Kamehameha schools, because I mean, you've got a lot of kids who are actually from your background. I think they Chinese,
Absolutely.
Hawaiian, they Japanese Hawaiian. They get all these mixed things. Like,
Yes.
how does that work once you get to Kamehameha schools?
well, when did you get to go to Kamehameha?
I went up the hill at 7th grade.
Okay.
Okay.
In the 7th grade, I did not necessarily want to go right away. I wanted to go to public school. My father wanted me to go to St. Louis. Hey, Imagine had I gone to St. Louis. What would that be like? Don't let my voice fool the listeners out there. So my dad wanted St. Louis. My mom wanted me to go to Punahou.
Oh.
My Hawaiian grandmother wanted me to go to Kamehameha. I wanted to go to McKinley with my friends.
Okay.
Yes.
Especially at that age, yeah, you want to hang out with your group already, you know.
Yes. But I knew that being accepted to Kamehameha was a privilege. And I knew at the time, Kiali'i Pauahi, her legacy offset learning for people who come from indigent families, one parent, divorced parents. So I am a beneficiary of the princess. And yeah, that's, I was scared when I went up to Kamehameha because now I'm surrounded by Hawaiians. It didn't really matter what kind of part Hawaiian. I was just surrounded by Hawaiians.
Yeah.
And I didn't fit in because, again, I didn't speak like everybody else. And yet again, because my peers saw that I was different. And so they would call names. They call you fag. They call you sissy. They call you homo. They call you queer. They call you mahu. The weaponizing of the word mahu left an emotional scar that I was not able to get rid of until later on in life. Now at 53, to acknowledge the term mahu, it's my place of power.
Yeah, because I mean, in the Hawaiian culture, the mahu is actually an elevated class. It's actually, or at least from what I remembered when I was told, it's somebody who has a place of power. So, and at a school that's with Hawaiians, you would think there'd be a little more, I don't know, a little more grace allowed to that.
Not necessarily,
Yeah.
because in going to Kamehameha in the 80s, at that time, it was a school for Hawaiians, not necessarily a Hawaiian school. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit
When
about
did
that?
when did it switch, or has it switched?
At the turn of the century, going into the 21st century, there was much that occurred. I was part of youth delegations or youth-oriented delegations, heavy youth component, and we would accompany Hokulea. We traveled the South Pacific, and we became representatives. We were the delegates that were the face, the voice, of Hawaii, Hawaiian people, Kanaka. And so we would dance, we would sing, we would chant, and we would accompany the skilled loea, the artisans who knew how to make kapa. They could weave, they would carve, they were different lei makers. There's so many different Hawaiian skill sets that would travel with us. And so there was an older, what we call makua, our age kind people, like those of us in the room now. And then there was us, those in school. So Kamehameha has come a long way.
Yeah.
And of course, it's because we continue to push the ticket, we push the envelope when it comes to asserting ourselves in our rightful home. And yeah, that could take all of us on a conversation that goes down a real racy road, but I'm here for all of it. You might have to cut up this podcast and make it a couple of episodes if you want to go down that road.
There you go. Oh, we bring you back for multiple episodes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the knowledge, the history and stuff, I know it's from verbal accounts from Kupuna. And where else? Like, were there texts that were written? Like, how? Because even from when I was in high school till now, there's been so much new information, and even with language and stuff like that. Where does it all come from?
Let me unfold a little bit of the history of Hawaii as someone born in the 70s.
Okay.
Now, disclaimer.
Yeah.
My next comments are not meant to offend people, but
All right.
they're meant to speak power to truth. Because in Hawaii, again, on the heels of a history that finds our contact with foreigners, at least the major recorded contact in 1778, moving to major religious shifts, which also impacted how traditional governance went between 1819 and 1820. 1820 is when Christian missionaries arrive. By the time 1848 rolls around, what is called the Great Mahele is a reapportioning of land because foreigners have now greatly influenced. Foreigners, foreign businessmen, and foreign Christian missionaries. They convinced the people that in order to be saved from the plague of illnesses, that back when they first arrived, people were reeling in the first 20 to 40 years
Right.
after contact and the spread of disease. And so to rehabilitate and reform the people, they had to be made industrious. And in order to achieve that, everyone would have to have an individual piece of land apportioned to them, and they had to go sign up for it. Now, remember, this is in direct conflict with a people that live by the collective. And so our traditional governance and land tenure system was severely challenged to navigate those waters, and not everybody ended up with land in their name in that non-Kanaka way. And fast forward, you have events that lead to the eventual demise of political authority. And King David Kalakaua, by 1887, finds himself at the end of the Bayonet Constitution, where he's forced to surrender his authority and simply become a figurehead. And power moves to his cabinet. Now his cabinet was made up mostly of Caucasian white from America. By the time of his demise, of which many in our Kanaka community, we surmise that his untimely passing was intentional. And so he comes back from America, and his sister...
Sorry to interrupt, but how did he pass?
Well, they said he passed because he got sick. And many of us think that he was either poisoned or some other foul play. Now, that's its story in and of itself, but his sister rises to become queen, Liliuokalani, the last monarch of Hawaii. And it is she whom our people continue to have such great affection for, because Hawaii, during her time, the foreigners made her a prisoner of her own palace, held her for treason. Against what? Against them. She was trying to promulgate a new constitution that would reinstate her to her rightful authority as the sovereign of these islands. And so the foreigners, realizing this, they did everything that they could to prevent that. By 1898, Hawaii is illegally annexed to the United States of America, and we see history repeating itself today. We see the United States in its affairs with Venezuela, with Greenland, and their interface with international powers from around the world. I see it happening, again, because as a Hawaiian, I feel it every time I see the acts that the U.S. is now getting behind. I can't help but be reminded that this is how Hawaiians also lost our power and forced to assimilate. And we in modern Hawaii continue to be impacted by this daily. Now, that gives way to the understanding that by 1900, between 1898 and 1900, that was a time when Hawaiian language was banned. And it takes place in schools. It takes place everywhere. You can't use it in the courts. And so for 76 years, that's at least 2 generations, at least, if not 3. You have people that are not speaking Hawaiian or forced to believe it's bad. In fact, I guarantee you, everyone in this room, we were taught, better go school. And if you go college, try go away to college, get a better education, make a life for yourself, get off the rock. That's the kind of mentality. I don't know about non-Hawaiian, but in Hawaiian households, we were taught that, well, even in my Chinese household, UH education wasn't as good. And I didn't believe any of that. I wanted to stay home. I didn't want to go to the continent to learn, because home is where I belong.
By the way, quick side note, Queen Liliuokalani, one of the greatest songwriters in Hawaiian history, I believe. She wrote awesome songs.
Yeah. And actually, there's I think there's events happening over the course of this month, right?
Yes.
About the overthrow, about all that stuff. The Iolani Palace is actually open to the public, I believe, every weekend. They do tours. There's going to be informational stuff. I mean, it's going to be really exciting. I was actually trying to get Paul Akana to come on this month to talk about it, because I think it's really important, and it's a piece of history that a lot of people don't realize. They don't understand the full weight of it. And I think, like you were saying, right, there's portions of it that the thing I was going to mention to you was the part that strikes me is someone like you, who's well steeped in verse and understands the history and all of that, right? Goes, I can see some of this stuff happening with other countries, right? But I have friends who are Hawaiian, and they go, yeah, take them back. And I go, what? And the two things kind of don't match to me. I don't understand how it is that they don't see the thing that you see, that they don't see it through that same lens. And I've been trying to figure it out, and I can't.
Let me help you.
Okay, please. Thank you.
For those who don't understand, we need to unravel some of the layers of elephant skin in the room. And if I were to ask all 3 of you, our teachers when we went to school, what ethnicity were they? Majority of them.
I would say in my school was Japanese.
And so was my school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mine too.
Yes. Now, we
I
see...
had one haole lady, but she was drunk most of the time. I don't know if that counts. I'm not even joking too. Sorry, she passed away. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, mostly Asian.
Mostly Asian.
Yeah.
Okay. And then depends when you get into the private schools, that's when you get a little bit more diversity and mix.
Yeah.
But by and large, we see where Hawaiians are systemically trodden upon, and the other ethnicities rise differently than us. I can't say whether it was better or worse. I can only say they rose differently from us, because this is our homeland. For everyone else, there was a homeland that was a little bit more in the 70s and 80s. It was still where we embraced everybody's diversity.
Can I ask you a question about like education in Kamehameha? I mean, like I said, in elementary school in Pro City side and Pro City education, there was a lot of Japanese teachers. What kind of ethnicity was the teachers in Kamehameha at your time?
We had
The
Caucasian.
majority.
We had a couple of Hawaiians.
Only a few?
Had, Hawaiian teachers, let's see. Yes, we had Miss Akana at the time. We had the Hawaiian workers at the school were all in the industry of food service, the landscapers. That was where all the Hawaiians were working.
It gives you a different perspective. Yeah?
Yes, different
Yeah.
perspective. And
Yeah.
then there was the token few that she was before my time, but I always hear the legendary name, Mrs. Gladys Brandt. And she was a very strict Hawaiian teacher, and she was, in leadership at the school. And Hawaiians like her were so noteworthy because she was a no-nonsense lady, and she meant business. I didn't have that kind of Hawaiian presence. My Hawaiian teachers were in the music and performing arts. And then I think my next Hawaiian teacher was for Hawaiian culture. But at that time, you were required to take Hawaiian culture class for 1 semester between freshman and sophomore year. And then you were required to take 1 semester of Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian history then between junior and senior year. And that was it.
Has the landscape of the faculty in present day Kamehameha changed?
I would say that there are more Hawaiians now, but not all of them are in positions of power. And then again, even to rise to a position of power comes with its fair share of challenges. So I can only say that, well, one day maybe we will see, where Hawaiians will rise at all levels. But perhaps that's a story for another day. I think what's most important is to, again, consider where did the Filipino community end up? Yeah. Now, when we look, many of the Filipino community ended up in the service industry
And medical.
and medical.
Yeah.
Japanese ended up in education and politics. And
That's what you always say.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
because after World War II, it was kind of where they were pushed because they were
Yes.
not a lot of the minorities. They said specifically the powers that be said,
yes,
you guys can do this, you guys can do that, but you cannot do these things.
Yes.
We're sorry. And so the Japanese Americans went, all right. But it's why CPB is in existence. Honolulu Country Club is in existence. It's because the powers that be said, you got to make your own way. And they went, all right. The Hawaiians were saddled with even more than that, because not only that, but the pressure of, okay, you cannot live your language, you cannot live your culture, but we know that you're there. Just stay over there in that spot and don't do anything. And after a certain point in time, people say,
Yes.
frick that. No, we're not going to do that. And I think to speak to what you were mentioning, the younger generation that comes up, they forget about all that, because at some point in time, someone tells you, no, Hawaiian is good. We like that. And if there's enough people, and I think that's why Kamehameha Schools was so essential to continuing the culture, because without that, there's no place for Hawaiians to gather and go, oh, look, we get all these other people. They're just like us. And we can achieve as much as anybody else.
When you said back in the day Hawaiians were in that spot, what were they? What was that spot that was like people just thought that would be the spot they were in? Was it farming and stuff like that, or what was it?
No, not farming, because Hawaiians are dispossessed of land, and it starts back in the Great Mahele. So if you and remembering that the Great Mahele apportioned individual lots to Hawaiians, that goes against our cultural way of managing and maintaining land. We don't do things individually. This comes with being American. And yeah,
Don't worry, that's not the same as hitting a table.
it comes with being American and the sense of individualism, because the missionaries said that we needed to be reformed, and that in order for us to come away from heathenish, lascivious kinds of ways of living that we had to embrace all that comes with their teaching. So the combination of being taught that being Hawaiian was bad and our language and everything that comes with being Hawaiian, at the same time that this is imposed upon us, we were taught to aspire to be American. Now, what we have in common with every other ethnicity is that we're all being taught to aspire to be American, and American ideology, the American dream. Everybody have their own house and all of these things. Yeah, everyone here in this room is nodding because we were taught this. But Chinese, Filipino, Japanese, Korean, Hawaiian, all the other Pacific Islanders, we all come from a culture where the collective is more important than the individual. The difference between Hawaiians and the non-Hawaiians is that all the other ethnicities have a home where they still are at the top of the food chain. Here in our own home, Hawaiians were not at the top of the food chain.
It's true. Yeah.
Well, I have two thoughts that I want to get out of my head. Get your opinion on, because it's interesting to me. So when I was in college, I remember taking a class. I want to get your thought. You may say this is total bullshit, or you may agree. I don't know. Okay, so this is kind of curious because you know more than me. And the professor was explaining that if there's a people and another group of people comes in and kind of either takes over or like imposes their will, then the native population usually, the attitude, which makes sense, is like, screw your system. You guys came in and whereas like the immigrants that came in, like the Japanese and the people that came to work on the fields, their attitude is a little different because they're coming for an opportunity, right? So they're trying to work within the system that the imposer put on the area. And so it's usually, he was saying that the native population is the one to suffer the most because their attitude is to not work in the system because it's a system that's oppressing them, right? It's kind of, which makes sense, versus like the other groups that come in, they're looking at it like, okay, how can I work within the system to make myself better? Because they're running away from something else, right?
They left for a different life.
Right, for a different life, yeah.
Oftentimes it was touted as a better life. But yes, I would concur with what you just said.
Hey,
I learned something in college.
Did Isaac teach you that?
No, it wasn't Isaac. It was some like an education class.
we had a friend of ours who was,
we were watching Once We're
Kumu
Warriors.
Hina.
You know that movie, Once We're Warriors? Yeah. And he's talking about that. I remember
Temuera Morrison?
No, it was because the Maori, right? They had I forget who was it. British.
Yes.
And so he was talking about that, like the Maori. They have this like new British system imposed, so they fight against it. Versus the people who come over, right? They're
rolling with it.
Yeah, they're rolling with it. That's a whole discussion. Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more because yes, you're correct. While the Hawaiians are a mix of fighting the system, ignoring the system because it's not reflective.
But you're still like in it.
But we're still in it.
Yeah.
And whether we like it or not, we're forced to not only deal with it, accept it, and try to champion it for those of us who were taught that. You had to, like my family, they said you need to speak good English. That's why I was not allowed to speak Pidgin. I only learned it when I was 18.
Wow. You picked it up fast though.
Pick them up fast.
No, you get them. You get them.
You think that all the foreigners, like the Japanese and the all the other ethnicities that came here to work on, coming for a better life and ended up working plantation or whatever, do you think that they were bummed when they got here or promised certain things and was a different perspective when they landed?
I cannot speak for the other ethnicities.
Because I don't know how it was sold to them to come here for a better life. You know what I
You
mean?
get a better life.
Well,
No,
well,
but what did they know what that entailed, or did they know what?
But
it would
okay.
actually
So
be?
think about your parents, right? I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about Devon's parents,
Oh.
right? So like my parents were just like, you gotta study hard. You gotta, because every generation, because they came right. The first generation comes over, they're working in the cane fields, hard life,
That was my grandparents.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Then
Pig farm, cane field.
They have kids.
they have kids, and they're like telling these kids like, you
Get
got
an
to figure out a way to
education.
get out of the cane fields and get whatever, and then that
Every generation hopes that the next generation is going to do better
Right.
than them. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, that progression is looked at as is put within the Western framework of what success is.
Right.
It's not
Right,
success,
right.
It's not.
Yeah.
Are you more self-actualized? Do you have a better sense of your culture? All of that stuff,
Right.
right? They don't. When they move here, it's forget all that shit because it doesn't matter. You in America.
No,
now.
but I just wondered, if I'm from Japan and I had a life there like that, and they go, come here for a better life, and then you end up working in the cane
No, but
fields.
those
Like, I wonder-
those guys never came over. Those guys didn't come over. The guys who came over were people. Our grandparents,
Yeah.
our great grandparents. There's all peasants, bro. There's all guys who never have shit.
Okay, so
it's
they
like what
did
she was.
get a- they
It's
did
like
have
what
a
it's like
better
what
life
Kumu.
moving
No,
here than
it's like
even
what
if it
Kumu was
wasn't a-
saying. Kumu was saying, the hard part is that you usually you come from nothing and then you build this thing, right? When the Hawaiians were here, the Hawaiians there was no and I apologize for speaking for you, but this is like my dad taught me all this stuff. Is that when the Hawaiians their culture is very much about everybody shares everything,
Mhm.
right? I mean, except for the elite class, but like she was saying, people you don't own anything. It's all a collective,
Yeah.
right? And then when the Americans came, right, and they colonized it, they said, no. Like she's talking about the Great Mahele, right? The Great Mahele is you get land and you get land and you get land and you get land. But all of the people who got the land were all the Haole people. The Hawaiians were like, well, where's our land? And they continued to wait for that land. So supposedly DHHL is helping to do that. But even that's become problematic, right?
Some Hawaiians receive land,
Yeah.
but not everyone signed up. And so we have the rural patents, we have our land commission awards, they call LCAs. You'll hear Hawaiians speak about them in the fight for land. That change in land tenure, it so alienated Kanaka from our traditional farmlands, and slowly but surely we are pushed off the land, because if we're not in control of it, then everybody else take it. Many taro plantations, taro farms became switched over to rice. And then in Waikiki's case, you see what happened to Waikiki. So when we look at it, I can't say whether every ethnicity really embraced and loved. Because if I look at what I know, what my grandmother used to tell me, that they made friends with different ethnicities. There was the Japanese camp, Filipino camp, Chinese people. She didn't talk about them being in camp so much because many of the Chinese were some of the original business owners.
Mm-hmm.
They own stores, they make laundry, and Hawaiians and Chinese tended to work well with each other. Chinese, I know from my own family, they didn't always like it when the Chinese married the Hawaiian. Because, again, the color of the skin. And so depends on the background of that Chinese family. Some were very, very kind, and some were not. If you married a Hawaiian, you might as well, have married a skunk, and you're out. That's it. And from what I understand, even some of the Japanese families, I don't know, you folks got to tell me. If you married outside of Wajin Japanese, was not smiled upon.
No.
Yeah.
And if you did marry, it was likely for land or power or some sort of benefit and advantage. And thus, the way we all rise in Hawaii, having grown up here, we see the Caucasians always maneuvering to be the shot callers. And right in the same neck and neck running would be next in line for power is Japanese American. Chinese, they became the business owners and then they became blended in with everybody else. The Koreans, same thing. They didn't rise. Chinese and Korean and Filipino did not rise in the same way. Japanese and Caucasian rose in political and economic power eventually. So it's a challenge sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of the times. And we can't speak about it because we all have relationships and we're all multi-ethnic now. Mm-hmm. We're not going to speak up against our friends. We're not going to speak up against our family members.
Or even your own ethnicity.
Your own ethnicity. But in order to really understand, like you were saying, we rose differently. Mm-hmm. We rose as an oppressed people in our own home. Mm-hmm. Everybody else who came here rose on those same terms, but as a people seeking that, whatever that was, that different opportunity in life. So naturally, it's no surprise that Hawaiians are now minority in our home. We're a minority in politics. We're a minority in economic mover and shaker spaces. We're a minority in teaching. We're highest in population in incarceration, highest in people moving out of Hawaii, because we were taught so much that the American dream was to aspire to, that even though we have our own ninth island called Nihoa, the marketing strategies that pushed Las Vegas to our people. Do you remember? Remember the Didi, away we go with Didi-I-O.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Vacations Hawaii.
Yeah.
And you marketed Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And it stuck so much so that, Hawaiians now, there's more Hawaiians that live.
A lot of them go, man.
Oh,
Yeah, they live on the U.S. continent. And it's all in the name of Hawaii is too expensive. It's not necessarily that much different from the continent, but the way we live is key.
Different.
Yeah.
Is because we're no longer relying on our family unit in the same way that our grandparents did.
Yeah.
When we look to ourselves, all the Asians and Pacific Islanders that come to Hawaii now, the reason why they make it, and it's still expensive, is because they help each other.
Yeah.
They pool their money.
Yeah.
Filipino
All live in
community,
the same house.
I gotta bow to the Filipino community because they pool all their money. They make these big, huge houses.
Yeah.
And all the family lives there.
Yeah.
It's a village.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's impressive, actually.
Impressive.
I had one question as well to ask you, just because, I mean, your journey from where you started to where you are now, you are such a beacon for a lot of people for the culture. For you have become, you become the person that they go to. People have a question about culture stuff. I see you on lots of television shows. I saw you at the Christmas concert and it's been really cool to see. It's been really neat, and I was just curious how you feel that transition happened for you from 20, 30 years ago to now.
It's a good question.
As a graduate of Kamehameha 1990, I went straight into a Hawaiian community that was just always constantly facing political challenge after challenge after challenge, and the discourse in what our political future would be. And we still have it today. And of course, because our people are ever increasingly consumed by and subsumed into being American, it clouds my people's judgment, and it removes the ability to discern what is and what is not Hawaiian, what's supposed to give us our identity as Pacific Islanders. The real reason why Kumu Hina, the real reason why Colin Wong transitioned and became Hina was because I felt that it was going to allow me to just be my true self, and that in my culture, there was room for me to exist. So everything that I would avail myself to in this 36 years after leaving high school was based on me standing up for my culture, my history, and my language that has room for me in it. Because if we see the current state of affairs in America, people do not know how to see beyond the parameters of American Democrat and American Republican. People only see the world according to that layout. But if I look at my world as Kanaka, you mentioned earlier about chiefs and Ali'i people. Do you know what is the mark of an amazing chief? Is how much they gave and how much they ensured that the land flourished, and how happy they kept the people, and how generous. When we have a saying, "Eo puali'i," heart and gut of a chief, because they give so generously. And so I think to myself that I'm very privileged. At age 17, I was inducted into 2 families. So aside from growing up in my Hawaiian and Chinese side of the family, at age 17, I was taken in by a Ni'ihau family and a Tongan family. So when I wasn't with my own family, I was with one of the others.
How did that happen?
My life would be blessed where I would meet 2 mother figures that became my Ni'ihau mom and my Tongan mom. And I've been talking about this recently on social media because people who don't like my political perspectives and don't like what I do in the community, because I get plenty of people who love me and plenty of people who hate me. So, yeah, I've been talking about this lately because people don't understand that in order for me to delve deeply into being Kanaka, I've had much help from perspectives beyond the framework of Kanaka. Example, my Chinese upbringing, my popo would say the proper term for a Chinese person is Tongyan, but that's in the Cantonese dialect of Zhongshan. And Tongyan is, if I'm not mistaken, it's a nod to the Tang or Tong dynasty. Tang dynasty, depending on how you pronounce it. So Tongyan is a person of Middle Earth in that particular region, the original true people. If you know anything about China and the dynasties and the upheaval after upheaval of politics, you know that your language will reveal to you where your people came from. In proper Cantonese dialect, the word is Zhongguoyan. Zhongguoyan is person of Middle Earth. And people who speak Mandarin also speak you can tell the same word, Zhongguoyan or Zhugorin. But my papa always said that Chinese people, when they look down on everybody else, doesn't matter white, yellow, black, red, they look down on everybody else because Chinese people come from the middle of the world, the center of the world. And what I learned about that was amazing. Anybody, whatever ethnicity, Japan, Africa, you name it, where they're from should rightfully be their middle of the world, right? And then everything out, in, doesn't matter. Your world centers around your home. And so I've had many years to think about this. What if I replaced China with Hawaii? Therefore, then, Hawaii is my piko. Hawaii is my homeland. Hawaii is my motherland. Therefore, calling the mainland something else other than my rightful home is illogical to me. And of course, knowing the political history between that land wasn't even America to begin with. That land In English, you acknowledge it as Great Turtle Island because the natives acknowledged it in some way, some form associated with that. Every one of our Native American brothers and sisters, their tribes, they had terms for the land. But as a general term, we acknowledge it as Great Turtle Island. But of course, you have to know world history. So knowing world history, where did the immigrants come from that now run Great Turtle Island, calling it the United States of America? And really, when we often say West, but in understanding, the continental U.S. is east of us. West of us is China and Japan to Hawaii.
Okay.
Right,
So I
right.
challenge anybody who's going to listen to this podcast. I'm very excited for this podcast as well.
Oh, sorry, that's my phone. Excuse me. I was very excited to hear you.
To think about, where is your center? Where is your center mentally, emotionally, spiritually? So out of everyone in this room, I'm the one who should rightfully say Hawaii is my pico, it's my center. Depending on where you feel your affection for. If everyone in this room was born in here, you too might say Hawaii is my center. And you too might be contributing. But then again, you might look to your Aina Kupuna, you might look to your ancestral homelands as your center. And then again, that looking to that homeland as your center, wherever it is also contingent on our own ability to speak the language of our ancestors. One of the worst elements of becoming American is the erasure and the sanitization of our ethnicities. We no longer are able to embrace and comprehend the intimacies and the nuances and the little idiosyncrasies of what makes us unique as Okinawan or Japanese or Chinese, Hawaiian, because now we're forced to be American, whether we want to or not, and whether we deliberately try to or not. It just is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's chirpy. I'll share this real quick.
Yeah,
I went
yeah.
to the Taikai we were talking about it during lunch. And what it is like every 5 years, everybody from Okinawa welcomes everybody around the world to come and gather and learn about the culture and the tradition. And it's kind of like the Olympics, man. Big stadium, all separated by different countries, and just partying and learning about culture and all that for like a week, right? It goes on, I think. Hawaii had its own contingency away from America contingency. So there was Brazil, there was, all these other countries and USA, and Hawaii has its own. And I was thinking to myself, whoa, we are special. Because I don't consider myself from there. I consider myself from here.
Right.
Even if I'm not Hawaiian, this is my pico.
Right.
This is where I came from,
Now I would dare say that this is where Hawaiians have fallen short, but not on purpose and not on our own accord. We had help. We fall short because in our efforts to reestablish ourselves culturally, philosophically, in an effort to reinstate ourselves to our rightful place, wherever that would be in and around Hawaii, we got insular with teaching our language, and we focused on teaching our own. And of course, it's no wonder, because why? Our language was banned.
No.
Remember when we were all in school, you folks got to go to Japanese school. Did anybody go to Japanese school?
I went to
did, yeah.
Japanese school.
Okay. I remember it clearly. All of my Japanese friends, bingo, school lets out. And before you know it, you better be ready, because you're going to Japanese school.
Did you guys learn culture, or did you guys learn language?
Language. It was hiragana and
Katakana,
katakana and all that kind of stuff.
kanji.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty terrible at it, so
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't
like
get
a
that
bad. I'm a
far.
bad Japanese. I never,
Yeah.
I never learned it really well.
But imagine. Yes, there was Chinese school, but not as dominant as Japanese school. I remember clearly, like no other.
Yeah.
There was no Hawaiian school for the Hawaiian to go to.
No.
There was no major Chinese school except for in Honolulu, Manglan, and only the Cantonese speakers would go there.
And only in 4th grade did you learn Hawaiiana in
That's right.
public
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And I would dare say that there are people who took Hawaiian language or who wanted to take Hawaiian language and they're not Hawaiian, and people go, why are you taking Hawaiian? I don't understand. And it's interesting because I'll be honest, I've had that. I had that reaction to people when they go, I go, oh, okay, you're going to take Hawaiian. Now it's sort of just a second nature thing. If you'd like to take the Hawaiian language and you want to learn it because you want to continue the practice and make sure that Hawaiian as a language keeps going, it's awesome. But I think back then it was like, oh. And even for me, like I worked at FM 100 where I was surrounded by Hawaiian people with Hawaiiana. And I've told this story before, but I think it illustrates your point. They had on KCCN AM, they had a Pukea Nogomeyer and Haoli. They had a radio show every Sunday. That
in
was
Hawaiian.
Yeah, and it was all in Hawaiian. I had no
listened to
idea
that
what was
before.
happening, but they would be speaking, and I apologize, but I forget the young lady who was from Niihau, and she spoke in the Niihau dialect, and so they would be there just jamming in Hawaiian, and I would walk by every time, and they'd wave and they go aloha, and I'd say hi, and I remember her specifically. Walking up to me and, Pehea, how are you? And I had no idea what was happening. And they taught me enough Hawaiian that I could answer them if they asked me Pehea. And then I said, oh, I don't want to insult the thing. She goes, no. The bad thing is if you don't try. If you
Yes.
don't try and you don't put effort,
Yes.
that's when we failed you. It's not you
Yes.
failed us, we failed you. And I went, wow. I never
Yes.
actually thought of it that way.
Yes.
But it made me want to know more about the language. It made me want to speak better. It made me want to make sure I understood kahakos and okinas and, you know what I mean? Like, it gave me an appreciation for it that I don't think I would have had if somebody said, okay, learn this. Because you got to learn this. It's not if you're going to live here, if you're going to be here, you got to learn this. It was more of a we want to share what we have with you, and that's a
Yes.
very Hawaiian way to do it.
Yes.
And I'm seeing more of that as time has gone on, and that's pretty cool.
The reason why I believe Hawaiians were not more overtly and blatantly able to share and to promulgate our language and culture over anyone else that calls Hawaii home is because we were taught that our language was bad. And we were taught that we were a worthless people. I had somebody comment to me on social media today saying those kinds of sentiments to me.
Really?
Yes. I can pull it up while we're sitting over here if you like. But, again,
That generation you're talking about is way before us, right?
what generation?
Like from as long as I can remember, I remember listening to Hawaiian music from my childhood days. I mean, it was like normal to hear that. But are you saying that during our time too?
Well, the Renaissance
Yes.
started happening like in the 60s, right?
Yes, no. In the 70s.
70s.
70s is when this happens. So
Lava Jam.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I guess that's right. We grew up right.
we grew up.
Right in
69
that-
We
and
are
70.
products of this.
Yes.
So, okay. When we think about Hawaii and that Renaissance, prior to this, you have this great push because what year were we forced to become a state? And the false narrative that Hawaiians were not the ones who the ethnic Kanaka. Now, if Hawaii were considered an independent country, then we're all Hawaiian, right? Because we're Hawaiian citizens of the country. So by political understanding, we'd be all Hawaiian. But it was not the ethnic Kanaka that were pushing for statehood. It was the everybody else's that pushed for statehood because it was a natural progression of where things had come from.
Right.
In fact, the Independence Day of America marks the loss of independence for us because that's the day that we became a republic. So anyway, that's a history point for people who like history. Where was I going with this?
The Renaissance. In the 70s.
So we are not that far connected. I'm 53, going to be 54. I was raised by my grandparents, all of whom were born between 1900 and 1920. Their parents all spoke Hawaiian. My great-grandfather was pure Portuguese, spoke Hawaiian because my great-grandmother was pure Hawaiian.
Wow.
Yes. And so they came from a time where Hawaiian was still well and alive. So for me, it's not far at all. I was raised by people who always recounted to me about what they knew was what Hawaiian. My grandmother was so sad when she came home from America to see how much Hawaii had changed. And I grew up with this, being raised by my grandparents. I didn't grow up with the very staunch American, pro-American mindset that my parents would likely have had. They were not the ones who influenced my mind and my thinking the most. So for me, no. You know, I spent time with my great-grandfather. So for me, that's not far.
Yeah.
For others who never knew their grandparents, yeah, it's far.
Yeah.
But that's not far for me.
No, it's not.
That's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we thank you. This has been very interesting.
Don't worry, she gonna be back.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface.
We
of
didn't
it.
even
I know.
scratch the surface.
Would you be willing to come back?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Bells on.
Okay. Well, we have one last question, which we ask all of our guests, and this is music related because it's a music channel. If you were stranded on an island by yourself for the rest of time and could only take 3 albums with you to listen to for that period, what would those 3 albums be? So I'm kind of curious of your music proclivities.
What would the 3 albums be?
Now,
And if you want,
we've
some-
had
some
we have
inspiration,
had
we got some of them.
we've had people do musicals, do comedy albums,
yeah.
it doesn't have to be music,
Mhm.
but most people do music. Yeah.
I am, well, I love all of our Hawaiian music, and I love all of the music that has come from Hawaii in terms of that Hawaiian/island flair and feel and the flavor. As a child of the 70s, you can't help but remember Kalapana, the brothers Casimiro, Makaha Sons of Ni'ihau. You remember the Eddie Kamai and the Sons of Hawaii. You know, we remember Dennis Pavao. We remember so many people.
Dennis Pavao.
Yeah.
I got Dennis Pavao stories. I'll tell you later. But
Yeah. Look,
good kind.
in the room, Gabby, Olomana, the Sunday Manoa. I think because I have a relationship with the brothers Casimiro, after I graduated, I was brought right away into Halau Nakamalei. So I danced for Robert Casimiro.
Okay, great.
I danced on the stage as a dancer of the Royal Dance Company for the brothers show.
Oh.
So that's definitely one of the albums that I take with me.
Okay.
You know, and then
Which is your favorite
which
Kaz
one?
album?
Oh, I cannot choose.
I had to
I,
bring
I-
one.
I cannot choose. It's okay.
It's hard. Even I don't know the albums. I know like songs and
Yeah.
Hawaii in the middle of the sea for me, but
You
That's
know,
the blue one, right? With the island chain from the
Yeah.
set.
That's the
that's
black
one
and
of-
white
good
one.
no,
no. Which one is the black and white one?
Waikiki.
Waikiki.
so as a composer, even if I didn't take any of them, I'm gonna make my own songs.
Okay.
Ah.
Oh, nice.
And I write my own stuff. So
Okay.
as a teacher of hula and chant, you know, chanting and dancing, things that come down in the hula traditions that, you know, I would descend from, it's very specific that certain hula given to us need to remain as it was given. From dress to interpretation to choreography, you keep it the same. But I know that I'm a Hawaiian that has the privilege of knowing my language, not just from an academic standpoint, but from a native speaker standpoint. My Ni'ihau mom made sure that I could speak just like every one of her, of the family and her own children. And I write songs to tell the story of our people. I write songs to tell the story of the land. I write songs to speak of the traditional place names of Hawaii, and the elements and the aspects of Hawaii that you might not know. That's why I do it. Because if somebody like myself with the capacity to do so doesn't, then I'm at fault. Because I didn't do my best to ensure that my language and culture was going to live. So I don't know. If I had to choose, then leave everybody there and I just go take myself.
Yeah. That's fine.
Bring your own album.
I go write my own album. Thank you very much.
That's an answer we have not heard.
Yeah,
yet.
exactly.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. And for everybody listening, we will see you next week with another episode. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.